Namaskar and welcome to StudyIQ. I am your friend Rahul Saigaonker. Let's continue our discussion for mains 2023 most important topics from science and technology. This is going to be the second discussion connected with space and space related developments. In our previous session, we discussed a generic idea of what we have achieved with respect to space related activities in India. We discussed about the origin of ISRO, what ISRO has achieved, what has been our journey or what has been our trajectory of space related development. Then we focused on some of the important or the landmark missions that we have achieved or accomplished successfully. And we discussed about the most recent ones, that is Chandrayaan 3 and the next or the immediately planned Aditya L1. Today we'll move ahead and we'll discuss about some of the other themes that are connected with space and space related activities which can become potential questions for us in civil services mains examination. All right, so without any delay, let's begin our interaction. But before that, there is a small notice for all the aspirants that one of the last batches for 2024, that is September batch, and I would say this would be again a very wise decision to join, because for 2024 the prelims is going to happen in June. So you have the month of September, October, November and December, approximately 4 months of dedicated preparation. Then we'll focus on prelims specifically, and then prelims and mains preparation would go on together. So it is an okay time to join. Please remember that this is going to be a morning batch, and there will be perhaps an evening batch as well, but this is the most comprehensive idea. Many students have already joined, they are attending the classes. You can go to our website www.studyiq.com. you can get the idea there. You can read about their experiences. You can see how there is a lot of improvement. Students starting with the zero level, within a week or two, they have slowly and steadily gained insights, analytical skills to solve MCQs. They are writing answers, very good answers. They are getting feedback from the mentors. Just go watch there. You can also be one of those students and improve your chances of clearing this examination. Just visit the website. It is a very affordable course. If you use my code Rahul Live, you will get discounts over that as well. The course is starting from 11th September 2023. Enroll. I'll see you in the class. All right. Right. Let's continue our discussion with respect to space related developments. Now, one of the potential missions that would be launched probably in the upcoming year 2024 beginning, that would be the Gyanyan mission. Gyanyan is going to be another landmark mission for India, because this is going to be the first manned mission from India to space. India has sent astronauts before, but not on its own launch vehicles. Of course, the first Indian to reach space was Rakesh Sharma. That was a collaborative project with USSR. But now, using our own indigenously developed GSLV Mark III, we are going to send astronauts to space through the Gyanyan mission. It is a 10,000 crore mission. It has been delayed already by the COVID-19 induced lockdowns. Its technical timing was around 2022, but again, now the tentative date is beginning of 2024. What are we going to do in this particular program? It is a manned mission. Please remember, we are going to use GSLV Mark III, and this GSLV Mark III, it is going to travel to the low Earth orbit, and when it reaches the low Earth orbit, this orbital module is going to be released. Now, please remember, in this orbital module, there will be two things. On one side, in this orbital module, there will be astronauts. There will be 3 astronauts who will be sent from Indian side. Training for them has already started. Along with this orbital module, there is a small service module, right? Service module. The service module, it is going to help re-enter into the atmosphere. So what is the plan of action? The plan of action is that we will send GSLV Mark III, where first, before even sending astronauts, we will first conduct 2 unmanned flights and 1 human space flight. The last flight would be human space flight. What we'll do is we'll send the GSLV to low Earth orbit, approximately 300 to 400 kilometers above Earth, and when it is deployed, this orbital module, it is going to revolve around Earth. It is going to orbit Earth for 5 to 7 days, and in this module, astronauts will be present in it itself. After 5 to 7 days of that voyage, the orbital module is going to re-enter the atmosphere. And for re-entering that, the service module will help. Once it re-enters atmosphere, the service module will detach, and the crew, they will deploy the parachutes and they will make a splashdown in Arabian Sea. That is the basic mission. Of course, it sounds very easy. 10,000 crore is the expenditure for this. It was planned for 2022, but because of COVID-19, some delays. Next year it is going to be launched. Now you have a question in your mind, sir, what is this? We are spending 10,000 crore rupees to send 3 people into space for 5 to 7 days, where they will orbit Earth in a low Earth orbit, and then they'll come back. What will be the benefit of it? Right? You're thinking, sir, what is the benefit for me? Right? In the words of ISRO itself, there are going to be so many benefits. First of all, this is going to be a first step towards future human and robotic program of ISRO. That means our future capability is going to be built on the Gyanyan mission. At the global level, again, with the success and the prowess of ISRO, there will be more and more international collaboration. We will get global recognition. We'll be in the elite nations, top 4 to 5 nations who have this capability. It is going to create a broader academia and industry partnership where people would be more and more interested towards ISRO, that is space related activities and research connected to it. The Gaganyaan mission itself is going to generate a lot of employment, along with it huge interest in science and research and development activities. It is going to motivate a young generation, a new generation of scientists, researchers to take this opportunity or take their career with respect to space related activities. The program, it will lead to more and more international partnerships and global agreement. And the biggest advantage would be, it is going to be a step towards the future missions. If we are able to successfully conduct this experiment where we are going to send astronauts, the training is being done. If we send astronauts to space, later on astronauts to moon, and probably in future astronauts to Mars. Again, one of the potential benefits from monetary perspective would be development of a concept of, say, space tourism that can also be enhanced, right? So there are likely potential benefits, and a question might appear something like this only, that India is going to plan its first manned mission, and what would be its benefits, or what exactly is happening. So if you look at Gaganyaan mission, as I told you, it is going to be sent through GSLV Mark 3, the 3-stage heavy lift-off vehicle. It has been renamed. You do understand, it is right now called LVM-3, Launch Vehicle Mark 3, and recently testing has been done for the first stage, the solid rocket stage. Along with it, testing has also been done for other contingency based developments. If there is any problem with the mission, multiple abort missions are being tested, and slowly and steadily other modules are being under testing. They are being tested right now. So the project is going to be launched. Next question might come on this Gaganyaan. All right. If we complete this, this is going to be, I would say, a bigger landmark than even Chandrayaan 3 to a large extent. So let's wait and watch what happens, but be ready for questions, or you can also use these as examples in your answer writing. All right. Now, apart from Gaganyaan, there are many other missions which are planned. Now, after the Chandrayaan 3 success, we are talking about Gaganyaan. We have also planned the Shukrayaan 1, although it was planned for 2024, now it has been delayed to 2031, right? Apart from that, we are also planning another mission for Mars, which is called as Mangalyaan 2. Aditya L1 mission is already planned, which we discussed in our previous interaction. And by 2030, India is also planning to build its own Indian space station. This is going to be, again, a long-term project. This is by 2030. Indian space station is also going to be developed. All right. Now, there are only few countries who have demonstrated this. There is again a collaborative project called as International Space Station. Earlier, Russia was one country which had its own space station, which is called Mir. US has the capability of space station, yes. Apart from that, China is the only country which has its own space station, that is called Tiangong. So India is also going to join this elite list by 2030. We are working towards that. It's a long-term project. All right. So these are some of the future missions or future ideas. Apart from that, we also have a great collaboration, or next year, a great collaborative project. One of the costliest satellites or costliest equipment of all time. More than $1 billion are being spent on sending NISAR, the NASA ISRO synthetic aperture radar, which would be launched again very soon. It's a collaboration between NASA and ISRO, where we are going to launch a synthetic aperture radar satellite or a unit which is going to keep an eye on Earth continuously. It is going to assess the hazardous scenarios or hazardous phenomena connected to Earth, for instance, a tsunami, volcano, forest fires, etc. Mostly high-end remote sensing based applications are being sought from NISAR. All right. So these are some of the missions that we are waiting for, probably next year. All right. Now, apart from this, there is one more theme or one more question which is possible, where a question might appear where I can seek information from aspirants regarding how there is a transformation in Indian policy with respect to space related activities. Now, earlier, I told you the evolution of India's space related development. First, it was under the Department of Atomic Energy. Then a specific committee was created, INCOSPAR, later on ISRO. But till recently, I would say till 21st century, or even the first decade of 21st century, most of the space related activities, they were under the government domain itself. That means ISRO was everything. ISRO was the soul of India's space related activities. However, we have seen that there is a transformation in the policy. Now, this is not just happening in India, this is happening with the other countries as well. Other countries are way ahead in terms of bringing private sector with respect to space related activities. Now, when we talk about US, of course, there is NASA, yes, but there are so many space related companies which have grown. There is Elon Musk, SpaceX, there is Virgin Galactic. Now, Jeff Bezos is also entered into space related race. So there are so many companies from US which are already mature, but in India we are a little late starter, because we observed that the Indian space sector's private sector contribution was very minuscule. In fact, Indian space industry itself was very minuscule, 3% with respect to the global level. And under that, the private arm of ISRO was Antrix. And in 2020, we created another private arm, that is NSIL. Apart from this, very few private sector companies have come. They lack complete end-to-end development of space related projects, meaning they are right now supplementing ISRO and they are right now supplementing NSIL and Antrix to achieve their objectives. But I would say there are very few companies in India which have their complete end-to-end satellite development or a project development teams or capability. But things are changing slowly and steadily. Now, if you look at some of the developments in last 5 to 6 years, the government is looking for promoting private companies with respect to high-tech space related activities. Some of the initiatives that have come from, I would say, last 3 to 4 years. In 2019, we passed an act to create NSIL. From 2020, its operation began. New Space India Limited, it is now the commercial arm of ISRO, and NSIL has developed one of the important satellite launch vehicles, which is called as SSLV, that is Small Satellite Launch Vehicle. Now, this has capability to send 500 kg of satellites into low Earth orbit. And recently, it has been announced that NSIL is going to transfer this technology to private sector. That means from now on, the small satellite launch vehicle is going to be given to private sector, whoever is interested. Tendering has already started for this. Apart from that, in 2020, India created InSpace, Indian National Space Promotion and Authorization Center, as a single window autonomous agency. And now in 2022, InSpace is the regulator. InSpace is basically the regulator of space. ISRO is not the regulator. ISRO's domain or ISRO's activity is simply R&D. So the conflict of interest has been resolved. Who is the regulator? If I want to create my company, I get a license from InSpace. ISRO only R&D. NSIL only commercial or private commercial activities, not private activities, commercial activities. Apart from that, to promote the private sector, a very strong pressure group or an association has been created called as ISPA, Indian Space Association, which is basically a collective voice for all the Indian space research industry and companies. There are many individuals from Airtel, from Agnikul, from Cosmos, from different companies. People are involved here. They act like a pressure group. It is, imagine this to be the ASSOCHAM or FICCI or basically NASSCOM of space. All right, the important pressure group or policy direction kind of organization for India, ISPA. So you can understand that from last few years, the Indian government wants more and more private sector involvement in space related activities, high-tech space related activities. Now, they have also released a future roadmap or Indian space policy. Under that, the government has said it is going to be based on 4 pillars. The first pillar is, I want the Indian private sector to have freedom of innovation. So now the government is going to promote more and more. So government is going to be the enabler, not the controller. Government is going to enable the private sector. Apart from that, 2 more pillars include promoting youngsters, so preparing youngsters for future space related activities. And finally, space sector should ultimately lead to benefit of common man, benefit of the society. Now, these are the 4 pillars of Indian space policy. And in this policy, it has been made clear that InSpace is going to be the regulator of Indian space industry. The role of ISRO would be purely R&D and mission oriented. Till now, I would say till very recent time, ISRO's role was a little bit mixed. I would say it had a lot of conflict of interest because it was involved with the mission development. It was only involved with respect to other tendering and other things, right? Tendering and other developments. And now InSpace has come. InSpace is like a single window agency. It is like the regulator in India. All the regulation based activities would be conducted by InSpace. ISRO's only R&D, NSIL, commercial application. And in the last few years, there has been a lot of promotion to private sector. And these are some of the launches or some of the satellites that have been built by private sector. Two important satellites are Thibault and another one is Anand. Thibault and Anand, these are the private sector satellites which have been again launched using the ISRO launch vehicles, but the entire satellites were built by private companies in India. There are many private companies in India, as I told you. There is Skyroot, there is Bellatrix, there is Agnikul, there is Cosmos. There are so many companies which are slowly and steadily coming up. But despite this, I can list some of the limitations of Indian private sector connected to space related activities. Right? What are some of the limitations? First of all, there is limited technological prowess with India. We have to rely for technical aspect, technology based inputs from other countries, and for that we are going for more and more collaboration with other space agencies. We have good coordination and collaboration with NASA, with JAXA, with ESA. There is limited entrepreneurial zeal in India. Now, what is the meaning of this is the risk-taking ability or the risk-taking attitude among Indian entrepreneurs is a little low, especially connected to space. Now, I can give you an example. Now, I spoke about Tesla. I spoke about Elon Musk. I discussed about, say, Jeff Bezos entering into the space race. I gave example of Richard Branson, that is Virgin Galactic. So many people, rich people, they started their own space company. But in India, we have the Tatas, the Ambanis, the Adanis, the Birlas, etc. Very few have ventured into that domain, ventured into the space domain. Again, slowly and steadily, now companies are entering, but space was considered more of a risky bet, mainly because of the absence of clear-cut legislative framework, ISRO's role, and I would say for a very long time, the policy was lacking. The policy was lacking. But from 2022, policy has been brought. Even till today, there is absence of clear-cut legislative framework. Everything, it comes from executive orders, executive decisions from the government itself, but legislative framework is missing. That ISRO's conflict of interest, it has been resolved to a large extent. ISRO has been given a role only of R&D. It is going to be in space from now on. But we also have issues of limited skilling. Do you know any space university in India? Or do you know any course? I would say uh, BTech, BTech space or BTech space technology, etc. Very few or very rare universities or colleges or courses that have come up. So we have limited skilling opportunities, and in that limited skilling opportunities also, people tend to go out. There is an issue of brain drain from India. Slowly and steadily, we are reversing it, but still, problem is there. Apart from that, the private sector is very nascent initially, and it needs a lot of government support. And for many years, this support was lacking. But things are changing from 2022, of course. Apart from that, there is an issue of this dispute settlement mechanism. One of the problems I gave you issue of brain drain, but dispute settlement mechanism is missing, and this we can give example of the Devas Antrix deal. The Devas Antrix deal, which went south, and from I would say almost last 10 years, the dispute is going on. Now, Devas was a company which was established in India, again with the stakes from with FDI from other country. So Devas Multimedia was set up in Bengaluru. In fact, I saw the office also when I was in Bengaluru. So Devas and Antrix, their deal fell out, and dispute is still going on. So a good and a decent dispute settlement mechanism has to be set up, which is a problem as of now. So what can be some of the suggestions that we can come up with? Say, yes, government has to spend more and more on R&D, help the private sector, probably create an independent tribunal for dispute settlement mechanism. A legal framework can be set up in a country, say connected to space activities bill, which can give a clear-cut policy or clear-cut direction to space-related activities in India. Apart from that, a fund can be created, space promotion fund, R&D spending and fund, and from this fund, specifically private sector can be incentivized. Space education university is something that can be suggested in your answer writing. Right now, this is something which is lacking in our country. Space education university or specific space related university in India. There has to be clear-cut mandate. Now, this is more or less clear. I would say this has been clear to a large extent, but still, in terms of action, we'll wait for it for a few years. More and more collaboration with leaders, that is NASA, JAXA, ESA, etc. And then industry and academia collaboration. These are some of the suggestions that you can go for in your answer writing. Clear? Right. So space sector. So what we discussed is some future missions that we are going to launch. Questions might appear on that. Private sector in space. What are the challenges, some of the suggestions, and what is the direction or trajectory of space sector involvement in India? Now, apart from this, there is one more issue of space debris which crops up now and then, again and again. Space debris is not just connected to India though. Please remember, space debris, in shortest or simplest of the term, it basically means waste material in space. Waste material in space. So we are already grappling with solid waste management on Earth. So now we are facing solid waste management in space. And what is this solid waste in space? The solid waste in space, it basically comprises of the satellite launch vehicles which have been abandoned or which have ended, the satellites which have expired, the non-functional satellites, or the debris from the anti-satellite testing. You do understand that India conducted in 2019 something called as Mission Shakti. Mission Shakti. And in this Mission Shakti, we fired a missile and we destroyed a satellite. After destroying that satellite, it is now basically debris. How do we clear that up? Right? Or small asteroid meteoroid fragments which are there, especially in the low Earth orbit. Now, I want to focus more and more on low Earth orbit because there will be some issues. Now, there are approximately 8,000 odd satellites which are active right now, and majority of them are in low Earth orbits. For instance, Tesla itself, Elon Musk has more than 2000 satellites in the low Earth orbit. And this low Earth orbit has huge amount of space debris as well. Now, if that space debris is not cleared, then it can lead to so many issues or so many problems. One of the prominent problems would be Kessler Syndrome. Now, this is a hypothetical idea given by Donald Kessler. It's a hypothetical scenario. It's a hypothetical scenario which explains that because of the space debris in the low Earth orbit, there can be sustained chain collisions, ultimately leading to complete disruption of satellite based communication. Meaning, simplest idea is this. Okay, now imagine today this is a situation in the low Earth orbit. There are so many satellites, there is so much of space debris, and you do know that this space debris is also orbiting Earth at a very high speed. Now imagine one piece going and hitting a satellite. Now once this piece goes and hits a satellite, now this satellite is now divided into 10 parts. Imagine, now these 10 parts, they are going to again collide with other satellites, other equipments. So there is going to be a chain reaction or a chain of collisions which ultimately leads to complete disruption of communication on Earth. Imagine such a scenario. All right, imagine no TV, no satellite internet. Okay, so something like that can happen. This is called as Kessler Syndrome. Now, apart from that, yes, because of the space debris, there can be in-orbit risk, there can be interference in communication, there can be obstruction for future space travel. Now, we are talking about the Gyanyan mission. Now, in low Earth orbit, if there are so much of objects which are the basic waste material or waste products, space travel obstruction can take place. Apart from that, now we have to spend more and more money for precision, because I have to not just track my satellite launch vehicle, I also have to track the space debris or the space waste also, right? So space debris, again, it is not just one country's problem. Please try to understand. Now you have a question, sir, who has sent the largest amount of satellites? It's USA, USSR. That means they have contributed largest towards space debris. Now, countries have to become more responsible when handling space debris, because it is not just the problem of one country, but all the countries, whoever are involved in space research. So, to solving this problem of space debris, international collaboration is needed. From Indian side, we have a mission called as Mission Netra. Now, this Netra, it basically translates to eye. It is eye in the sky, which keeps a track on minute of the space debris and their movement. Netra. Apart from that, there is a United Nations committee called COPUS, that is United Nations Committee for Peaceful Use of Outer Space. It is working towards some collaborative solutions to end space debris. NASA, JAXA, European Space Agency, they are coming forward with some solutions, different projects for space debris removal, like space tether, space lasers. Using space lasers, destroy the debris. Again, one of the best ideas would be what? Limit my space launches, communicate my space launches with the United Nations, and then ensure that whatever space mission that you are launching, you need to have a plan that it does not become space debris. Now, how can you ensure? One, throw it out of the orbit, or bring it in the upper atmosphere so that it burns off. There are two solutions. That means ensure that you have a backup plan. And for this, one of the suggestions could be, or ideal solution that you can talk about, is an international convention on space debris, where globally established rules and regulations can be brought, so that countries, when they launch, they also give a detailed backup plan or a detailed plan to United Nations, so that that spacecraft or that mission of theirs that does not become space debris. They should have a plan to do something, basically deorbiting to a lower level, then entering at upper atmosphere, or ensure that it is not there in the low Earth orbit, or it is sent outside. So another solution is limiting your future launches and transparency with respect to space data. I would say more and more collaboration can help. Instead of only ISRO, NASA, JAXA launch a bigger project, one project one project which provides services to everybody. Again, those are some of the ideal solutions, but as of now, we are facing these issues of space debris for sure. All right. So question might be asked about space debris. What is India doing towards it? Now, India has demonstrated two ideas. One is this Netra project we have, keeping an eye on the space debris. Recently, what India did was one of the satellites that we had launched in 2011. It was called as Megatropics. Now, this particular project, it was launched in collaboration with France. Now, what India did was, after its utility is over, we have brought this satellite back into upper atmosphere and we have burnt it. So that now is not a space debris. Interesting, right? Very interesting. Right. So this is about the space debris. There can be one more theme of question connected to space diplomacy. Now, this is again a typical mains kind of a question, which I wouldn't put it in the domain of science and technology, but a connection between science and technology and international relations, right? So question can come up where, what do you understand by space diplomacy? Is India resorting to space diplomacy? What are the measures or what are the steps taken by India to promote space diplomacy? Such questions might appear. Of course, what is space diplomacy? It basically refers to integration or use of your space-based technology, space-based knowledge, space-based prowess to promote your foreign policy. That's the basic idea of space diplomacy. Meaning, in simplest terms, you act and practice using space-based initiative activities to conduct your foreign affairs. And ultimately, what is the aim of your foreign policy or foreign affairs? To promote your national interest. Right? So if you ask a question, sir, what would be benefit for us? Benefits would be many. First of all, if I use space, that is a domain of technology for my foreign policy, for enhancing my national interest, my soft power will increase. Right now, if I am a pioneer, or if I would say I have developed my capability with respect to space, I can help my neighbors, and I have a neighborhood first policy, whose objectives can be achieved by using space related cooperation. Technology based cooperation can occur with other countries. Yes, for example, see, I can give services of say Navik to other countries. I can give services of many of the missions that I have released to other countries. Technology based cooperation can be done. Classic example being NISAR, right? We have already space based cooperation agreements with more than 30 countries, right? We have space based cooperation with France, with USA, with USSR, not USSR, Russia now, Russia, Germany, etc. Many countries, right? Apart from that, yes, it can also be used to counter the Chinese influence, not exactly counter China, but counter Chinese influence, especially in my neighborhood. Isn't it? If I do not use space as a tool for my foreign policy, someone else will use. So better use it. Now the question is India resorting to space diplomacy? Of course. Now, first of all, at the international level, India is a very responsible player. India is a very, very responsible player. We already know that. India is a member of United Nations Committee on Peaceful Use of Outer Space. India is a signatory of 5 important agreements on space: the Outer Space Treaty, Rescue Agreement, Liability Convention, Registration Convention, Moon Agreement. India is also a very important partner. Again, not one of the first partners, but India is one of the partners with International Space Station as well. ISRO and NASA collaboration is quite growing from last few years. Apart from that, ISRO's international cooperation, it goes on with more than, again, 50 countries, 54 countries. About 226 agreements have been signed with more than 50 countries for space-based cooperation. We also have regional cooperation with different groups like European Space Agency, SARC. We have created EU METSAT for meteorological studies. Apart from that, we have used our services, we have used our projects to provide services to neighborhood countries. For instance, Navik services can be provided to neighborhood. We have already offered the Gagan service. Gagan, it is GPS aided navigation, augmented navigation system, which will help to pinpoint the location of an aircraft, location of a ship, location of anything. And for that, we have provided the services to many neighboring countries, like we have provided to Nepal, Sri Lanka. We have ISRO telemetry centers with many other countries like Indonesia, Mauritius, etc. Few years back, we have launched the South Asian satellite GSAT-9, which was dedicated to South Asia. India also offered its help to Bangladesh, again progressing the idea of space diplomacy. We offered help with the Bangabandhu series, but ultimately Bangladesh rejected that. They went with Elon Musk, that is Tesla. We also have a lot of collaboration with many countries like Indo-French collaboration for Saral, Megatropics, and a future project called Trishna. Antrix and NSIL, they are continuously building India's commercial relations with other countries. We have launched more than 400 satellites of foreign countries. It's a great achievement. That is an idea of space diplomacy itself. Recently, you do know that India has also joined the Artemis Accords. Artemis Accords is led by United States of America. India has joined it as a member, and India's Chandrayaan 3, if you look at India's Chandrayaan 3, there has been a great collaboration on Chandrayaan 3 also with NASA. NASA had provided very important connectivity based inputs for Chandrayaan 3. Apart from that, if we look at some of the future missions that we are planning, NASA ISRO mission, NISAR mission is being planned along with NASA. LUPEX mission, the next moon mission from India, is going to be collaboration with Japan, JAXA. This is going to be a mission again. We are going to send a lander and a rover under the LUPEX mission. We also have a collaborative mission with Israel for electric propulsion system, development of electric propulsion system. If we look at some of the joint missions that we have already conducted, with France, we have already completed Megatropics and Saral mission. With Russia, YouthSat. With other countries, with Bulgaria, UK, Germany, etc., we collaborated for Chandrayaan 1. For OceanSat 2 with Italy, AstroSat, Canada. We have ground stations in Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia. We already have some planned programs. For USA, we have NISAR. With USA, we have NISAR. With Japan, we have Trishna. With France, we have Trishna. With Japan, we have lunar mission. It is called as LUPEX. I gave you the name. With France, OceanSat 3 is going on. Its name is Argon. And we have also planned some telemetry centers, not just now in South Asian region or Southeast Asian region. We have now planned in Chile, Panama, France, Japan. We have some centers, ISRO-based collaboration centers in these countries as well. So all in all, space diplomacy is something which India uses very effectively. In fact, space and space-related technology developments, they have been a very important contributor towards enhancing soft power of India. Predominantly being the Chandrayaan 3, which was one of the, I would say, contributor towards soft power of India. So do we resort to soft diplomacy? Yes, absolutely. So many things are there for you to give it as an example. All right. So question might be asked on space diplomacy as well. Be prepared for those. All right. Right. So I think this is something that we can talk about in space technology or anticipate some questions. Some different theme question can also come. Be ready for those. Again, related to space related activities, or I can say a far-fetched question might be that India is planning for a Indian space station. What would be some of the technical difficulties in it? Again, you can just go to ISRO website and get some of the inputs from there. But again, that is a far-fetched question. These are most likely space diplomacy, space debris, Chandrayaan mission, Gaganyaan mission, right? And the private sector in space. What are we doing for promoting that? These are most likely, all right? So that completes our discussion for space tech. Again, we'll wind up the session in the next class, where I'll give you some insights. Just like I told you about space, I'll tell you about some other topics, which again, if I cover, we'll be going past September 15, which would be rather waste for you. So I'll be talking about some of the important questions or topics that you need to focus or prepare on your own, along with some defense related inputs. All right, that will be the end of the series. Thank you for watching this. If you like this, you can always follow me on this ID. If you have any queries, if you want to reach out to me, you can just drop me a DM on Instagram. I do respond quickly. Thank you for watching this again. Jai Hind.